Captain Lisa Martinez checked the control panel one more time, as the New Horizon prepared to leave Earth's orbital station. She had done this journey to Mars Colony Beta dozens of times before, but she never got tired of seeing the blue planet, getting smaller in the rear-view screen. Today felt different, though. Maybe it was because they were carrying more families than usual, or maybe it was just her imagination. The passenger manifest showed exactly 200 souls on board. Families heading to start new lives on Mars, scientists going to work at the research stations, and engineers who would help build the growing colony. Lisa knew most of the regular travelers by name now. There was Dr. Kelly Adams, the botanist who was working on growing earth plants in Martian soil. She always sat in seat 12A and always brought a small plant with her as a good luck charm. Then there was mechanic Tony Garcia with his wife Maria and their twin boys, age 7. The boys loved to press their faces against the viewing windows and watch the stars. Lisa's co-pilot Jake Sullivan was running through the pre-flight checklist. Jake was 28 years old and had been flying with Lisa for 3 years. He was good at his job and never complained about the long trips. Jake came from a military family, but he chose civilian transport because he wanted to help people reach their dreams instead of fighting wars. His steady hands and calm voice made passengers feel safe during the journey. Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez was checking the engine readings from her station near the back of the ship. Amy knew every bolt and wire on the New Horizon. She could hear problems in the engine before the computers detected them. Amy had designed several improvements to the ship's systems that made their trips faster and safer. She was 35 years old and had 2 kids back on Earth who stayed with their grandmother while Amy worked. The New Horizon was not a military ship. It was built for comfort and cargo, not for fighting. The ship had basic shields to protect against small space debris and radiation, but no weapons. Why would they need weapons? This was a peaceful route through well-mapped space. The biggest dangers were equipment failures or getting hit by asteroids, and Amy's engineering skills could handle most problems. Lisa spoke into the ship's communication system to address all the passengers. Her voice was warm and confident. She told them about the journey ahead, how they would travel through the asteroid belt, and when they would arrive at Mars. She reminded parents to keep their children in safety seats during acceleration and told everyone where to find the emergency supplies if needed. Some passengers were making this trip for the first time, and Lisa wanted them to feel welcome and safe. The departure from Earth's orbital station went smoothly. Lisa guided the New Horizon away from the docking bay and set course for Mars. The first few days would be easy flying through empty space. Then they would enter the asteroid belt, where Lisa would need to pay more attention to navigation. After that, it would be smooth sailing again until they reached Mars orbit. Jake monitored the communication channels while Lisa flew the ship. They received updates from other ships in the area and reports about asteroid positions. The space lanes were busy this time of year, as many ships carried supplies and people to the outer planets. Most of the radio chatter was routine, but it was good to know other friendly ships were nearby. Amy reported that all systems were running perfectly. The engines were operating at optimal efficiency, life support was working well, and the cargo hold was properly secured. The passengers had settled into their cabins and most were either sleeping or reading. Some of the children were playing quiet games with their parents. The ship felt peaceful and calm. On the second day of the journey, Lisa walked through the passenger areas to check on everyone. This was something she did on every trip. She believed that a good captain should know her passengers and make sure they were comfortable. Dr. Adams showed Lisa her latest plant experiment, a small tomato plant that might grow on Mars someday. The Garcia twins asked Lisa dozens of questions about flying spaceships and whether they could visit the bridge. Their parents apologized for the boys being so curious, but Lisa enjoyed their excitement. An elderly couple named Frank and Helen Porter were traveling to Mars to live near their daughter and her family. Frank had been worried about making such a long journey at his age, but Helen convinced him they should spend their retirement years exploring new places. They told Lisa about their granddaughter who was born on Mars and had never seen Earth. Lisa assured them that the trip would be smooth and that Mars Colony Beta had excellent medical facilities. By the third day, they were approaching the edge of the asteroid belt. This was the part of the journey that required the most skill and attention. The asteroids were mostly small, but they moved in unpredictable patterns. Ships had to navigate carefully to avoid collisions. Lisa had made this passage many times and she knew which routes were safest. Jake updated the navigation computer with the latest asteroid tracking data from Mars Control. Amy increased power to the forward shields and made sure all the sensors were working properly. The passengers were told to stay in their seats and keep safety belts fastened while they traveled through the asteroid field. Lisa took manual control of the ship as they entered the asteroid belt. The autopilot was good, but human judgment was better for avoiding unexpected obstacles. She reduced speed and watched the sensor screens carefully. Small rocks appeared as bright dots, and larger asteroids showed up as bigger shapes. The ship's computer calculated safe paths between the obstacles, but Lisa made the final decisions about which way to turn. The New Horizon moved slowly and carefully through the asteroid field. Outside the windows, passengers could see chunks of rock floating in space. Some asteroids were as small as cars, others were as big as mountains. The view was beautiful, but also reminded everyone how dangerous space could be. Lisa's steady flying kept them safe as they worked their way toward the inner edge of the asteroid belt. Everything was going according to plan. In a few more hours, they would be through the asteroid field and back in open space. Then it would be an easy cruise to Mars. Lisa felt good about the trip so far. Her passengers were safe, her crew was doing excellent work, and the ship was performing perfectly. She had no way of knowing that tomorrow would change everything. The fourth day started like any other morning aboard the New Horizon. Lisa was drinking her coffee and reviewing the navigation charts when Jake spotted something unusual on the long-range sensors. At first, it looked like just another asteroid, but the shape was too regular and the metal composition was wrong. As they got closer, it became clear that this was not a natural object. Lisa stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. The object was definitely artificial, about twice the size of the New Horizon, and it was drifting without power. No human ship matched this design. The hull was dark gray with strange angles and curves that seemed both beautiful and threatening. There were no identification signals coming from the vessel, and it did not respond to their radio calls. Jake ran the ship's design through the computer database, but found no matches. This was not any kind of human spacecraft. The implications hit Lisa like a cold wave. If this was not human, then it was alien. First contact with another intelligent species was happening right here, right now, and Lisa was responsible for 200 innocent people. Amy came to the bridge to look at the sensor data. Her engineering mind immediately started analyzing the alien ship's construction. The metal alloys were unknown, and the power signature was completely different from human technology. There were no visible engines or weapon ports, but that did not mean they were not there. The ship appeared to be damaged, with several hull breaches and no signs of life support activity. Lisa faced an impossible decision: space law and basics. Humanity demanded that she offer assistance to any ship in distress, but this was not a human ship, and she had no idea what kind of beings might be inside or whether they would be friendly. Her first responsibility was to protect her passengers, but she could not just ignore what might be the most important discovery in human history. She called a quick meeting with Jake and Amy to discuss their options. Jake thought they should maintain distance and report the discovery to Earth immediately. Amy was curious about the alien technology but agreed that safety came first. Lisa understood their concerns, but she kept thinking about the possibility that intelligent beings might be dying inside that ship while they debated what to do. The decision became easier when their sensors detected a faint distress signal coming from the alien vessel. The signal was not in any human language, but the pattern was clearly artificial and repetitive, like an automated emergency beacon. Lisa could not ignore a distress call, even from an alien ship. She had taken an oath to help any vessel in trouble, and she would not break that oath now. Lisa announced her decision to the crew. They would approach the alien ship carefully and attempt to determine if there were survivors who needed help. Jake would monitor all communication channels and be ready to send a message to Earth. Amy would watch the ship's systems and be prepared to boost power to shields or engines if needed. Lisa would handle all contact attempts personally. The passengers were told that they had discovered an unidentified vessel and were investigating. Lisa did not want to cause panic by mentioning that the ship was alien, but she ordered everyone to stay in their cabins until further notice. Most passengers assumed it was just a routine safety precaution, but a few of the more experienced space travelers sensed that something unusual was happening. As the New Horizon moved closer to the alien ship, more details became visible. The hull was covered with symbols and markings that looked like writing, but in no alphabet that humans had ever seen. There were several large openings in the side of the ship that might have been weapon ports or engine exhausts. The damage to the hull appeared recent, with twisted metal and debris floating nearby. Lisa tried broadcasting on multiple frequencies, using both voice and mathematical sequences that any intelligent species might recognize. She transmitted basic information about the New Horizon and their peaceful intentions. For several minutes there was no response. Then, suddenly, the alien ship began to move. Lights appeared along the hull of the alien vessel, and its engines came to life with a deep humming sound that the New Horizon sensors could detect. Lisa felt a moment of hope that they had successfully made contact with another intelligent species. That hope lasted exactly 10 seconds. Without any warning or attempt at communication, the alien ship fired a beam of energy at the New Horizon. The shot missed by less than 50 meters, but it was clearly intended as an attack. Lisa's training took over immediately. She shouted orders to Jake and Amy while throwing the ship into evasive maneuvers. Amy reported that the alien weapon had some kind of electromagnetic effect that interfered with their systems. Several instrument panels flickered, and the communication array needed a few seconds to reset. Jake was already sending an emergency message to Earth, but it would take hours for any help to arrive. The alien ship fired again, this time coming much closer. Lisa could see the energy beam pass by the bridge windows, leaving a trail of ionized particles in space. Whatever these beings were, they were not interested in peaceful contact. The damaged appearance of their ship had been a trap, and the New Horizon had flown right into it. Lisa realized that the aliens had been waiting for human ships to investigate their fake distress signal. This was not first contact gone wrong. It was an ambush. The beings inside that ship had planned to attack any human vessel that came to help them. They had used humanity's own compassion as a weapon against them. The alien ship was larger and clearly more advanced than the New Horizon. Its weapons were powerful, and Lisa had no doubt that it could destroy the transport ship easily. She had to think fast to keep her passengers alive. The asteroid field around them might provide cover, but it would also make maneuvering more dangerous. Jake reported that the alien ship was moving to intercept their course. It was faster than the New Horizon and would catch them easily in open space. Amy was working frantically to boost power to the shields, but their defensive systems were designed to stop small debris, not military-grade energy weapons. Lisa made the hardest decision of her career. She told Jake to stop trying to communicate with the aliens and focus on evasion. She ordered Amy to divert all non-essential power to engines and shields. Then she announced to the passengers that they were experiencing technical difficulties and everyone should prepare for emergency maneuvers. The alien ship fired a third shot that struck the New Horizon's rear shields. The impact shook the entire ship and sent sparks flying from several control panels. Amy reported shield damage and power fluctuations throughout the ship. They could not take many more hits like that. Lisa pushed the New Horizon's engines harder than they were designed, to go diving toward a cluster of large asteroids. If she could reach the cover of the asteroid field, they might have a chance to hide or escape. The alien ship followed, firing steadily but missing most shots as Lisa weaved between the space rocks. The chase had begun, and Lisa knew that everything depended on her ability to outfly an enemy with superior technology and firepower. The lives of 200 innocent people rested in her hands, and she would not let them down. The alien warship pursued the New Horizon deeper into the asteroid field with relentless determination. Lisa had never pushed her ship this hard before, weaving between massive chunks of rock while the enemy fired shot after shot at them. The transport vessel was not built for combat maneuvers, and she could feel the strain on every system as they dodged through the deadly maze of floating stone. Jake kept his hands steady on the sensor controls, calling out asteroid positions and incoming weapons fire. His military training was showing now, and his calm voice helped Lisa focus on flying while he handled threats detection. Amy was in the engine room, manually adjusting power distribution to keep their shields up and engines running at maximum capacity. The ship was operating far beyond its normal limits, and she knew they could not maintain this pace for long. The alien ship was larger and more powerful, but Lisa discovered that size was a disadvantage in the tight spaces between asteroids. The New Horizon could squeeze through gaps that forced the enemy to take longer routes around obstacles. Lisa used every trick she knew to stay ahead, sometimes flying so close to asteroids that passengers could see the rock surface through their cabin windows. Amy's voice came over the communication system with bad news. The engine temperature was rising toward dangerous levels, and several power conduits had overloaded from the strain. The shields were down to 60% efficiency after taking multiple hits, and the life support system was working harder to maintain air pressure throughout the ship. They needed to find a place to stop and make repairs, but the alien ship would not give them that chance. Lisa tried to contact Earth again, but the asteroid field was interfering with long-range communications. The emergency beacon was transmitting, but it would take time for rescue ships to reach them. Even if help was already on the way, they had to survive long enough for it to arrive. The nearest military patrol was at least 6 hours away, and Lisa was not sure the New Horizon could last that long under constant attack. The passengers were beginning to panic despite Lisa's efforts to keep them calm. Parents held their children close while the ship shook from near misses and sharp turns. Dr. Adams was helping to treat minor injuries from people who had been thrown around during the evasive maneuvers. The Garcia twins were crying, and their parents did their best to comfort them while staying strapped into their safety seats. Frank and Helen Porter sat quietly in their cabin, holding hands and trusting that Captain Martinez would keep them safe. Frank had served in the Earth Defense Force 40 years ago, and he recognized the sounds of a ship under attack. He did not tell Helen exactly what was happening, but he prepared himself for the possibility that they might not live to see their granddaughter on Mars. The alien ship fired a different type of weapon that created a web of energy between several asteroids. Lisa barely managed to avoid flying into the trap, but it forced her to take a route that brought them dangerously close to the enemy vessel. For a few terrifying seconds, the two ships were close enough that people on both sides could see each other through the windows. Lisa got her first clear look at the aliens who were trying to kill her passengers. They were tall and thin, with pale skin and large eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light of their bridge. They wore dark uniforms with symbols that might have been rank insignia or clan markings. One of them pointed directly at the New Horizon, and Lisa could see its mouth moving as it gave orders to its crew. Jake reported that the alien ship was trying to jam their communications and sensor systems. Bursts of electromagnetic energy were disrupting their equipment and making it harder to navigate through the asteroid field. Amy had to constantly reset circuits and reroute power to keep their essential systems working. The aliens were not just trying to destroy the New Horizon, they were trying to blind it first. Lisa realized that the aliens were treating this like a hunting expedition rather than a battle. They could have destroyed the transport ship easily if they had wanted to, but instead they were playing with their prey. This made Lisa angry in a way she had never felt before. These beings were threatening innocent families for sport, and she would not let them get away with it. The chase continued for 2 hours through the densest part of the asteroid field. Lisa's hands were cramping from gripping the flight controls, and sweat was dripping into her eyes despite the cool air on the bridge. Jake was pale with exhaustion from tracking multiple threats at once. Amy reported that several ship systems were beginning to fail from the sustained abuse. The alien warship seemed to be enjoying the hunt. Its crew took time to line up perfect shots instead of firing as quickly as possible. They herded the New Horizon toward dead-end passages and then laughed as Lisa found ways to escape at the last second. The whole situation felt like a game to them, with 200 human lives as the stakes. Lisa found temporary shelter behind a particularly large asteroid and used the few minutes of cover to assess their situation. The ship's condition was deteriorating rapidly. The engines were overheating, the shields were failing, and they were almost out of fuel for the maneuvering thrusters. Worse, They were being pushed toward a part of the asteroid field where the rocks were smaller and more spread out, giving the enemy ship more room to maneuver. Amy climbed up to the bridge to report in person. Her clothes were dirty from crawling through maintenance tunnels, and there was a small cut on her forehead from a falling tool. She told Lisa that the engine was running on borrowed time, and they had maybe 30 minutes before something critical failed. The alien weapons were designed to disable ships rather than destroy them immediately, which suggested they wanted to capture the New Horizon intact. Jake had been monitoring the alien ship's communication signals, and he thought he was beginning to understand their language patterns. The creatures seemed to be reporting back to someone, possibly a larger fleet or home base. They were gathering information about human ship design and defensive capabilities. The New Horizon was not just being hunted, it was being studied. Lisa made a command decision that surprised both of her crew members. Instead of continuing to run, she was going to fight back. The New Horizon had no weapons, but it did have other resources that could be used against an enemy. Lisa ordered Amy to prepare the mining charges that were stored in the cargo hold for construction work on Mars. The mining charges were small nuclear devices designed to break up asteroids for easier processing. They were not weapons, but they could cause significant damage if used properly. Amy understood immediately what Lisa was planning, and she headed back to the cargo hold to start preparing the charges for deployment. Jake protested that attacking the alien ship would only make them angrier and more likely to destroy the New Horizon completely. Lisa agreed that it was a desperate plan, but doing nothing meant certain death for everyone on board. At least if they fought back, they had a small chance of survival and escape. The alien ship came around the asteroid that had been sheltering the New Horizon, ready to continue the chase. But instead of running, Lisa turned her ship directly toward the enemy vessel and accelerated to maximum speed. For the first time since the attack began, the aliens seemed surprised by what the humans were doing. Lisa's plan was simple but dangerous. She would get close enough to the alien ship to deploy the mining charges, then detonate them at point-blank range. The explosion would likely damage both vessels, but the New Horizon's shields might protect them from the worst effects. It was their only chance to level the playing field against a superior enemy. The alien warship responded to Lisa's aggressive maneuver by increasing its rate of fire and moving to block their escape route. The enemy had positioned itself near a cluster of particularly large asteroids, creating a natural trap with only one way in or out. Lisa realized too late that the aliens had been herding the New Horizon toward this exact spot all along. They were more clever than she had given them credit for. Jake's sensor readings showed that the alien ship had extended some kind of energy field around the asteroid cluster. Any attempt to leave the area would require flying through that barrier, and he was not sure their damaged shields could handle the strain. The aliens had effectively turned the asteroid cluster into a prison, with themselves as the guards and the New Horizon as the prisoner. Amy returned to the bridge with troubling news about the mining charges. 3 of the 6 devices had been damaged during the chase, either from weapons impacts or from being thrown around during emergency maneuvers. The remaining charges would have to be manually prepared and deployed, which meant someone would have to go outside the ship in a spacesuit. In the middle of a battle, that was almost certainly a death sentence. Lisa studied the tactical display and tried to find any weakness in the alien ship's position. The enemy vessel was larger and more heavily armed, but it was also less maneuverable in the tight confines of the asteroid cluster. If she could somehow get behind it, or force it to turn awkwardly, there might be a brief opportunity to deploy the charges and escape. The passengers were terrified but trying to stay calm for the sake of their children. Dr. Adams had organized the adults into groups to help keep everyone safe during the violent maneuvers. The Garcia family was huddled together in their cabin, with Tony trying to explain to his sons that Captain Martinez was playing a very serious game with the other ship. Helen Porter was quietly praying while Frank watched the stars through their small window. Lisa announced over the ship's communication system that they were in a dangerous situation, but that she and her crew were working on a solution. She told everyone to stay in their cabins and keep their safety belts fastened. She did not mention that their chances of survival were getting smaller with each passing minute. The alien ship began a systematic attack on the New Horizon's remaining systems. Instead of trying to destroy the transport immediately, they were targeting specific areas to disable it piece by piece. First, they knocked out the long-range communication array, cutting off any chance of calling for help. Then they damaged the main sensor dish, leaving Jake with only short-range detection capability. Amy reported that the aliens were using some kind of scanning beam to examine the New Horizons' internal structure. They were learning about human ship design and looking for weak points to exploit. The scans were also disrupting their computer systems and making it harder to control the ship's functions. It was like being dissected while still alive. Lisa realized that the aliens did not want to destroy the New Horizon because they needed to study it intact. That gave her a small advantage, but it also meant they would probably try to capture the ship and its passengers alive. Given what she had seen of their aggressive behavior, Lisa did not think the aliens had good intentions toward human prisoners. Jake detected movement from several other ships approaching their position. His damaged sensors could not get clear readings, but it looked like at least 3 more alien vessels were coming to join the first one. Lisa's heart sank as she realized they were about to be completely outnumbered. Even if her desperate plan with the mining charges worked against one ship, they could not fight off an entire fleet. Amy volunteered to go outside and manually place the mining charges on the alien ship's hull. It was an incredibly dangerous mission that would require her to cross open space while both ships were maneuvering and the enemy was shooting. Lisa could not ask anyone to take such a risk, but Amy insisted that it was their only chance and that she was the best qualified person for the job. Lisa found herself facing an impossible decision. She could order Amy to attempt the mission, which would probably result in her death but might save the passengers. Or she could try to find another solution that did not require sacrificing her friend and crew member. The weight of 200 lives pressed down on her shoulders as she struggled to choose the right path. The alien ship moved closer to the New Horizon, apparently preparing to board or capture the transport vessel. Lisa could see figures moving around on the enemy bridge, and she noticed that they were wearing what looked like military uniforms. These were not explorers or scientists, they were soldiers. The attack had been planned and coordinated from the beginning. Jake reported that the approaching ships were definitely hostile and would reach their position in less than 20 minutes. The original alien vessel was already more than the New Horizon could handle, and additional enemies would make escape impossible. Lisa realized that she was not just fighting for the lives of her passengers anymore. She was fighting to prevent these aliens from learning human weaknesses and ship designs. Amy had found 2 spacesuits that were still functional after the battle damage. She suggested that both she and Jake could go outside to place the charges, which would give them a better chance of success and allow them to watch each other's backs. Lisa appreciated their courage, but she could not bear the thought of losing both of her closest friends and colleagues. The alien ship fired a new type of weapon that created a tractor beam, trying to pull the New Horizon closer for boarding. Lisa fought against the beam with her engines, but the alien technology was more advanced than anything humans had developed. Slowly but steadily, the transport ship was being drawn toward its much larger enemy. Lisa made a decision that surprised everyone on the bridge. She was going outside herself to place the charges while Jake and Amy stayed on the ship to protect the passengers. As captain, it was her responsibility to take the greatest risks, and she would not ask her crew to die for a plan that might not even work. Jake and Amy both protested loudly, saying that Lisa was needed on the bridge to fly the ship and that either of them could handle the mission outside. Lisa listened to their arguments but remained firm in her decision. She had gotten them into this situation by choosing to investigate the alien ship, and she would get them out of it even if it cost her life. The tractor beam was getting stronger, and Lisa estimated they had maybe 10 minutes before the New Horizon was pulled close enough for the aliens to board. She quickly put on one of the functional spacesuits, while Amy prepared the remaining mining charges for deployment. Jake programmed the detonation sequence so that Lisa could activate all the charges with a single signal from her suit's communication system. Lisa took one last look around the bridge of her ship and at the 2 people who had become like family to her over years of flying together. She told Jake to take care of the passengers and to get them safely to Mars if possible. She told Amy to keep the engines running and be ready to move fast when the charges exploded. The alien ship was now close enough that Lisa could see individual windows and weapon ports on its hull. She could also see what looked like docking, bays opening up, preparing to send boarding parties to capture the New Horizon. Time was running out, and Lisa knew that this desperate gamble was their only chance. She opened the airlock and stepped out into the cold vacuum of space, carrying 3 mining charges and the hope that her sacrifice might save 200 innocent lives. Behind her, Jake and Amy watched through the bridge windows as their captain and friend floated toward an enemy ship that was 3 times larger than their own. Lisa floated through the void between the 2 ships, using her suit's small thrusters to navigate toward the alien vessel. The mining charges were heavy and awkward to carry in 0 gravity, but she managed to keep them stable while avoiding the debris floating between the ships. The alien warship loomed ahead of her like a dark mountain, its hull covered with strange symbols and weapon ports that could vaporize her instantly. The aliens had not noticed her yet, focused as they were on pulling the New Horizon closer with their tractor beam. Lisa could see movement behind the windows of the enemy ship, but the beings inside seemed to be preparing for a boarding operation rather than watching for outside threats. Their overconfidence might be the only advantage she had in this desperate mission. Jake's voice crackled through her helmet radio, reporting that the other alien ships would arrive in 15 minutes. Amy added that the New Horizon's engines were straining against the tractor beam and would soon overheat if Lisa did not hurry. The pressure of time weighed heavily on Lisa's shoulders as she pushed herself faster toward the enemy hull. The first mining charge had to be placed near what Amy had identified as the alien ship's main power generator. Lisa used her suit's magnetic boots to walk along the hull, searching for the right location while trying to stay hidden from the bridge windows. The alien metal felt strange under her feet, smoother than human alloys but with an odd vibration that seemed to pulse with energy. As Lisa worked to attach the first charge, she could hear sounds through the hull that must have been the alien crew preparing their boarding equipment. They were confident that the humans were trapped and helpless, which meant they did not expect any resistance. Lisa smiled grimly inside her helmet as she armed the first device and moved toward the second target location. The second charge needed to go near the ship's main engine, which meant Lisa had to travel to the rear of the vessel while staying out of sight. She used thruster burns to leap from one section of hull to another, always keeping large structures between herself and the alien bridge. At one point, she had to wait motionless for several minutes while an alien crew member looked out a nearby window. Amy's voice came through the radio with increasing urgency. The tractor beam was pulling the New Horizon dangerously close to the alien ship, and Jake was having trouble keeping their orientation stable. If the 2 ships collided before Lisa could detonate the charges, the explosion might destroy both vessels and kill everyone aboard. Lisa worked faster, her hands shaking slightly as she attached the second mining charge. The third and final charge was the most important because it had to be placed near the alien ship's weapon systems. Lisa found the right location, but it was directly below one of the bridge windows where the enemy crew could easily see her. She would have to trust that they were too focused on their boarding preparations to look down at their own hull. Lisa crept carefully along the hull toward the weapons array, staying as flat as possible against the alien metal. She could see lights and movement through the bridge windows above her, and once she heard what sounded like alien voices giving orders, her heart pounded so hard that she was afraid the aliens might hear it through the hull. Just as Lisa reached the weapon array, an alien crew member looked down through the window and saw her. The being's large eyes went wide with surprise, and it immediately began pointing and shouting to its companions. Lisa knew she had been discovered and that she only had seconds before the aliens responded to the threat on their hull. Lisa quickly attached the third charge and activated her suit's communication system to send the detonation signal, but before she could transmit, the alien ship's hull began to vibrate with some kind of energy weapon that was designed to shake off external threats. Lisa lost her grip on the hull and began floating away from the ship, still clutching the detonation. "Control!" Jake's voice came through her helmet radio with panic in his voice. The aliens were powering up weapons that were pointed directly at the New Horizon. They had decided to destroy the transport ship rather than capture it, now that they knew the humans were fighting back. Lisa had only seconds to detonate the charges before her passengers were killed. Lisa activated the detonation sequence just as the alien weapons fired at the New Horizon. The 3 mining charges exploded simultaneously, sending a shockwave through the alien ship that knocked out its weapons and engines. The shots that had been aimed at the transport ship went wide, missing by hundreds of meters as the alien vessel shuddered and twisted from the internal explosions. The blast also caught Lisa in its expanding wave of energy and debris. Her space suit was designed to protect against radiation and small impacts, but not against the massive forces released by 3 nuclear mining charges. The shockwave threw her away from the alien ship like a leaf in a hurricane, spinning end over end, as pieces of alien hull plating flew past her. Lisa's suit systems reported multiple failures as she tumbled through space. Her helmet visor was cracked, her air supply was leaking, and the radio was filled with static. She could see the alien ship breaking apart as secondary explosions tore through its hull. The massive vessel that had seemed so threatening was now just floating wreckage in escaping atmosphere. Amy's voice managed to break through the radio static, shouting that the New Horizon was free from the tractor beam and that Jake was bringing the ship around to rescue Lisa. But Lisa could see that she was tumbling away from both ships too quickly for them to catch her. The explosion had given her too much velocity, and her suit thrusters were damaged beyond repair. Lisa tried to use her suit's emergency beacon to guide the rescue attempt, but the device was not functioning properly. She could see the New Horizon moving toward her position, but the distance was increasing rather than decreasing. Jake was pushing the damaged transport ship as hard as he could, but it was not fast enough to catch up with Lisa's trajectory. As Lisa spun through space, she caught glimpses of the other alien ships that were approaching the battle site. 3 more vessels were closing in on the New Horizon, and they would arrive before Jake and Amy could complete the rescue operation. Lisa realized that her friends would have to choose between saving her and saving the passengers. Lisa made the choice for them. She used her suit's weak emergency radio to contact the New Horizon and ordered Jake to abandon the rescue attempt. The passengers were more important than one person, and the approaching alien ships would destroy the transport if it stayed in the area trying to save her. Lisa told her friends that she was proud to serve with them and that they should get the passengers safely to Mars. Jake refused to follow the order, saying that no one gets left behind and that they would find a way to save both Lisa and the passengers. Amy was crying as she reported that the alien ships would reach them in less than 5 minutes. The New Horizon could escape if it left immediately, but there would be no time for a rescue operation. Lisa used her command authority to override Jake's protests and order him to leave her behind. She told Amy to take care of the passengers and to make sure the Garcia twins grew up to be brave and smart. She told them both that serving as their captain had been the greatest honor of her life, and that she would not let their friendship be the reason that 200 innocent people died. The New Horizon began to move away from the battle site, accelerating toward the edge of the asteroid field, where it could reach safe space. Lisa watched her ship growing smaller in the distance and felt a strange sense of peace. She had saved her passengers and crew, which was what a good captain was supposed to do. The aliens might kill her, but they would not get the chance to study human ship design or capture human prisoners. Lisa's damaged suit finally lost all power, and the radio went silent. She was alone in the cold vacuum of space, surrounded by the wreckage of the alien ship she had destroyed. In the distance, she could see the lights of the other alien vessels as they arrived at the battle site to find their companions dead and their enemies escaped. Lisa closed her eyes and thought about the passengers she had saved. Dr. Adams would continue her work growing plants on Mars. The Garcia twins would grow up to be fine young men. Frank and Helen Porter would get to meet their granddaughter. 200 people would live because Lisa Martinez had been willing to die for them. The alien ships began searching through the wreckage, looking for survivors and trying to understand what had happened to their powerful warship. They found Lisa floating unconscious in her damaged spacesuit, and for reasons of their own, they decided to bring her aboard. Lisa woke up in what was clearly an alien medical facility, surrounded by strange equipment and dim purple lighting. Her body ached from the explosion, and she could feel bandages covering several wounds on her arms and legs. The air smelled different, with a metallic taste that made her nose burn slightly. She was alive, which surprised her more than anything else. A tall alien figure stood nearby, watching her with large dark eyes that seemed to reflect the purple light. The being was wearing what looked like a medical uniform, white with blue markings that might have indicated rank or specialization. When it noticed that Lisa was awake, it made sounds that could have been words in an alien language, though Lisa could not understand anything. Lisa tried to sit up, but restraints held her to the medical table. The restraints were not tight enough to hurt, but they prevented her from moving freely. She looked around the room and saw several other alien beings working at control panels and monitoring equipment. None of them seemed hostile, but they were clearly keeping her as a prisoner. The medical alien approached and began examining Lisa with handheld devices that hummed and beeped as they scanned her body. The being's touch was gentle but clinical, like a doctor performing a routine examination. Lisa tried to speak, but her throat was too dry to make much sound. The alien noticed her distress and brought a container of liquid that tasted strange, but helped her swallow. Through a window in the medical room, Lisa could see parts of the alien ship and the space beyond. She was definitely aboard one of the enemy vessels, probably being taken to their home world for interrogation or study. The view outside showed that they were moving through space at high speed, with stars streaming past in lines of light that indicated faster-than-light travel. Lisa's mind raced as she tried to understand why the aliens had saved her life instead of leaving her to die in space. Perhaps they wanted to question her about human technology and military capabilities. Or maybe they planned to use her as a hostage in future negotiations with Earth. Either way, she was determined not to give them any information that could harm her people. The medical examination continued for what felt like hours, with different aliens taking turns to study Lisa's physiology and take samples of her blood and tissue. They seemed particularly interested in her brain, using scanning devices that made her head tingle with strange sensations. Lisa tried to resist the scans, but the restraints made it impossible to avoid the alien instruments. Eventually, the medical aliens finished their work and left Lisa alone in the room. She used the time to study her surroundings and look for any possible means of escape. The room was clearly designed to hold prisoners, with smooth walls that offered no handholds and a door that had no visible controls on the inside. Even if she could get free from the restraints, she would still be trapped. Lisa's thoughts turned to the New Horizon and her crew. She hoped that Jake and Amy had managed to get the passengers safely away from the battle site and continue toward Mars. The aliens might try to pursue them, but the transport ship had a good head start, and Jake was an excellent pilot. With luck, her sacrifice had bought them enough time to escape. After several hours, a new alien entered the medical room. This one was different from the others, wearing a dark uniform with elaborate markings that suggested high rank. It was taller than the medical staff and moved with an air of authority that reminded Lisa of military officers she had known. The being studied Lisa for a long moment before speaking in accented but recognizable English. The alien commander introduced himself as war leader Zex of the Vakari Empire. He explained that his people had been monitoring human expansion into space and had decided that humans were a potential threat that needed to be eliminated before they became too powerful. The attack on the New Horizon had been a test of human defensive capabilities and resolve. Zex told Lisa that her actions had impressed the Vakari military command. No human had ever destroyed one of their warships before, and the fact that she had done it with improvised weapons and a civilian transport vessel showed that humans were more dangerous than previously thought. The Vakari Empire was now reconsidering its strategy for dealing with humanity. Lisa remained silent during Zex's speech, unwilling to give the alien commander any satisfaction or information. She had been trained to resist interrogation during her early career in civilian transport, and she would not betray her species even under alien captivity. Zex seemed to understand her defiance and actually appeared to respect it. The alien commander continued talking, explaining that Lisa was being taken to the Vakari homeworld, where she would be studied by their scientists and military strategists. They wanted to understand how humans thought and fought, so they could better prepare for future conflicts. Lisa would be kept alive as long as she remained useful to their research. Zex revealed something that shocked Lisa more than anything else he had said. The Vakari Empire had been planning a full-scale invasion of human space with the goal of conquering Earth and its colonies before humanity could develop more advanced weapons. But Lisa's destruction of their warship had forced them to delay those plans while they reassessed human capabilities. Lisa realized that her desperate fight had achieved more than just saving the passengers of the New Horizon. She had actually prevented an alien invasion that would have killed millions of humans. The sacrifice of one transport ship and its captain had bought humanity valuable time to prepare for a war they did not even know was coming. The conversation was interrupted when another alien officer entered the room and spoke urgently to Zex in their own language. The war leader's expression changed as he listened to the report, and Lisa could see that something unexpected was happening. Zex turned back to Lisa with what might have been surprise or concern in his large dark eyes. Zex explained that his ship was receiving distress signals from Vakari survivors who had been aboard the warship that Lisa destroyed. According to the signals, some of his people had survived the explosion and were drifting in space near the battle site. The Vakari Empire had a strict code about rescuing their own warriors, even from impossible situations. The alien commander faced a difficult decision. He could continue toward the Vakari homeworld with his valuable human prisoner, or he could return to rescue his fellow warriors who might already be dead. The delay would allow human rescue ships to reach the area, making recovery of the survivors much more dangerous for his crew. Lisa surprised Zex by offering to help rescue the Vakari survivors. Despite everything that had happened, she could not bear the thought of intelligent beings dying slowly in the cold vacuum of space. Her offer confused the alien commander, who could not understand why a human would want to help the same people who had tried to kill her passengers. Lisa explained that helping people in distress was simply what humans did, regardless of whether those people were friends or enemies. She had become a transport captain because she believed that all intelligent life had value, and that principle did not change just because she was now a prisoner. If Zex would return to rescue his people, Lisa would do everything she could to help save them. Zex stared at Lisa for a long time, clearly struggling to understand her offer. In Vakari culture, enemies were meant to be destroyed, not rescued. The concept of showing mercy to people who had tried to kill you was completely foreign to his way of thinking. But he could see that Lisa was sincere in her desire to help, even at the cost of her own safety. The alien commander made a decision that would have shocked his superiors back on the Vakari homeworld. He ordered his ship to return to the battle site to search for survivors from both species. Lisa would be allowed to help with the rescue operation, though she would remain under guard at all times. It was an unprecedented act of cooperation between two species that had been trying to kill each other just hours before. As the Vakari ship changed course and headed back toward the asteroid field, Lisa felt a spark of hope for the first time since her capture. Maybe there was a chance for peace between humans and Vakari after all, if both sides could learn to see past their fears and prejudices. The rescue mission might be the first step toward understanding instead of war. The rescue operation took place in the twisted wreckage of the destroyed Vakari warship, with debris floating in all directions and emergency beacons flashing weakly in the darkness. Lisa worked alongside Vakari rescue teams, using her knowledge of space survival to help locate survivors from both species. Despite being a prisoner, she was treated as a valued team member by aliens who had learned to respect her skills and courage. War leader Zex had given Lisa a translation device that allowed her to communicate with the Vakari rescue teams. The ICAS technology was remarkable, converting her English words into Vakari language patterns almost instantly. Through the translator, Lisa was able to coordinate search efforts and share human rescue techniques that the aliens had never seen before. The first survivors they found were 3 Vakari warriors who had managed to reach an emergency shelter in the wreckage. The aliens were injured but alive, and they stared in amazement when they saw a human helping to rescue them. One of them spoke to Zex in rapid Vakari, clearly asking why their enemy was saving their lives instead of leaving them to die. Lisa also discovered 2 human survivors from the original battle. Jake and Amy had secretly returned to the battle site in a small shuttle, refusing to abandon their captain despite her direct orders. They had been hiding in the asteroid field, searching for any sign that Lisa had survived the explosion. When the Vakari rescue ship arrived, they had tried to escape but were captured. The reunion between Lisa and her crew was emotional and complicated. Jake and Amy were overjoyed to find their captain alive, but they were also prisoners aboard an alien warship with an uncertain future. Lisa was proud that they had tried to rescue her, but worried that their capture might have compromised the safety of the New Horizons passengers. Zex informed Lisa that the New Horizon had successfully escaped the area and was continuing toward Mars under the command of the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Adams. All 200 passengers were safe, and the ship was being escorted by Earth Defense Force patrol vessels that had responded to their distress call. The mission to save the passengers had been completely successful. During the rescue operation, Lisa had the chance to interact with ordinary Vakari crew members rather than just military commanders. She discovered that many of them were curious about humans and had questions about Earth culture and technology. Through the translation device, she learned that the Vakari Empire was not a unified force, but rather a collection of different clans with varying opinions about how to deal with other species. Some Vakari believed that humans should be conquered or destroyed because they represented a threat to Vakari dominance in the galaxy. But others thought that humans might be valuable allies or trading partners if peaceful contact could be established. The war between the species was not inevitable, but it would require leaders on both sides who were willing to take risks for peace. Jake and Amy worked alongside Lisa and the Vakari rescue teams, setting aside their fear and anger to help save lives. The cooperation between former enemies was awkward at first, but gradually became more natural as both sides focused on their shared goal of rescuing survivors. Jake's technical skills and Amy's engineering knowledge proved useful in navigating the dangerous wreckage. The rescue operation was interrupted by the arrival of a squadron of human F-22 spacefighters, upgraded versions of the ancient atmospheric aircraft that had been adapted for interstellar combat. The squadron was led by Commander Ben Carter, a veteran pilot who had served with distinction in the Outer Colony Wars. The F-22s had been dispatched from the nearest military base to investigate the battle site and search for survivors. Ben Carter's squadron approached the Vakari rescue ship with weapons ready, unsure whether they were dealing with enemies or potential allies. The situation was unprecedented in human military history, with alien and human crews working together to save lives from both species. Carter requested permission to speak directly with the ranking human officer in the area. Lisa identified herself as the captain of the destroyed transport vessel and explained the unusual circumstances that had led to the joint rescue operation. She described how war leader Zex had chosen to return and save survivors rather than continue to his home world, and how both species had worked together despite their recent conflict. Carter listened with amazement to her report. The F-22 squadron commander found himself in an impossible situation. His orders were to rescue any human survivors and eliminate any alien threats, but the Vakari ship was clearly engaged in a humanitarian mission rather than aggressive action. Carter had to decide whether to attack the aliens or attempt to negotiate some kind of temporary ceasefire. Lisa convinced Carter to allow the rescue operation to continue, arguing that the Vakari had shown good faith by saving her life and working to rescue survivors from both sides. She suggested that this might be an opportunity to establish peaceful contact with an alien species, rather than starting an interstellar war that neither side was prepared to fight. Ben Carter was a practical, military officer who understood the value of intelligence gathering. He agreed to maintain a temporary truce while the rescue operation continued, but he also positioned his fighters to respond quickly if the aliens showed any signs of aggression. His pilots were nervous about working so close to enemy vessels, but they followed their commander's orders. The joint rescue effort continued for several more hours, with human and Vakari teams working side by side to locate and recover survivors from the wreckage. Lisa served as the primary liaison between the two groups, using her translation device to coordinate their efforts and prevent misunderstandings that could lead to renewed conflict. As the operation neared completion, war leader Zex approached Lisa with an unexpected proposal. He wanted to arrange a formal meeting between Vakari and human representatives to discuss the possibility of peaceful coexistence. The rescue operation had shown both sides that cooperation was possible, and Zex believed it might be better than the destructive war that both empires were preparing to fight. Lisa agreed to help arrange such a meeting, but she insisted that it should take place in neutral space, with representatives from both governments, rather than military commanders. She also demanded that all human prisoners, including herself, Jake and Amy, should be released as a gesture of good faith before any negotiations could begin. Zex considered her terms carefully before agreeing to them. He would release the human prisoners to Ben Carter's squadron and provide safe passage for them to return to human space. In exchange, Lisa would carry his proposal for peace talks back to Earth's government and use her influence as a hero of the recent battle to encourage serious consideration of diplomatic solutions. The transfer of prisoners took place under the watchful eyes of both F-22 fighters and Vakari warships, with everyone involved understanding that a single mistake could restart the fighting. Lisa, Jake, and Amy were transferred to Ben Carter's command ship, while the Vakari survivors were taken aboard Zex's vessel. Both sides maintained their weapons, but refrained from any aggressive actions. As the two fleets prepared to part ways, War Leader Zex sent a final message to Lisa through the translation system. He told her that she had earned the respect of the entire Vakari Empire through her courage and compassion, and that her name would be remembered in their history as the human who showed them that there might be another path besides endless war. Ben Carter's F-22 squadron began the journey back to human space, carrying 3 rescued transport crew members and the most important intelligence about alien intentions that humanity had ever received. The pilots were amazed by what they had witnessed, and word of Lisa's heroic actions began to spread throughout the fleet even before they reached their base. Lisa sat in the passenger compartment of Carter's command ship, exhausted but hopeful that her ordeal might lead to something positive for both species. She had saved 200 human passengers, survived an impossible situation, and possibly prevented an interstellar war. But she knew that the real work of building peace would be much harder than fighting battles in space. The news of Lisa Martinez's incredible rescue mission spread across human space faster than any official military report. Ben Carter's F-22 pilots could not stop talking about what they had witnessed at the battle site, and their stories grew more amazing with each telling. By the time the squadron reached their home base, Lisa had already become a legend among the fighter pilots who called themselves the guardians of human space. The F-22 squadron began referring to Lisa's desperate ramming attack as the Martinez Gambit, a tactical maneuver that involved using civilian equipment as improvised weapons against superior enemy forces. Military strategists studied the battle recordings and marveled at how a transport captain with no combat training had managed to destroy an alien warship that outgunned her vessel by a factor of 10. Jake Sullivan and Amy Rodriguez became heroes in their own right, celebrated for their loyalty in returning to rescue their captain despite impossible odds. Their story of friendship and courage resonated throughout the space transport industry, and both of them received offers for prestigious positions with major shipping companies. But they chose to continue working together, eventually forming their own transport service dedicated to carrying passengers safely through dangerous space. The passengers of the New Horizon arrived safely at Mars Colony Beta, where they were greeted as survivors of humanity's first alien contact. Dr. Kelly Adams continued her botanical research and eventually developed crops that could grow in Martian soil without artificial support. The Garcia twins grew up to become aerospace engineers, inspired by their childhood experience to design better safety systems for civilian spacecraft. Frank and Helen Porter lived to meet their granddaughter on Mars and spent their remaining years telling anyone who would listen about the brave captain who had saved their lives. Their granddaughter eventually joined the Earth Defense Force and named her first command ship the Lisa Martinez, in honor of the woman who had given her grandparents a chance to see her grow up. The official investigation into the alien contact incident took months to complete, but Lisa's actions were vindicated by every review board and military tribunal that examined the evidence. She had followed proper protocols by attempting to rescue a ship in distress, and her decision to fight back when attacked had prevented the aliens from capturing human technology and passengers for study. Earth's government faced a difficult decision about how to respond to war leader Zex's proposal for peace talks. Many military leaders wanted to reject any negotiations and prepare for an inevitable war with the Vakari Empire. But public opinion strongly favored giving diplomacy a chance, especially after Lisa's story became known to civilians throughout human space. Lisa found herself testifying before Earth's Global Security Council, describing her interactions with the Vakari and arguing for the possibility of peaceful coexistence. Her testimony was compelling because she had actually fought against the aliens and survived their captivity, giving her unique credibility on the subject of Vakari intentions and capabilities. The Council eventually agreed to authorize preliminary peace talks to be held at a neutral location in deep space with representatives from both governments. Lisa was asked to serve as a special advisor to the human diplomatic team, using her knowledge of Vakari culture and her relationship with war leader Zex to help bridge the gap between two very different species. The first meeting between human and Vakari diplomats was tense and difficult, with both sides suspicious of the other's motives. But Lisa's presence helped establish trust, and gradually the two groups began to find common ground. The talks continued for months, with Lisa serving as an unofficial ambassador who could speak to both sides about the benefits of peace over, or the Vakari Empire was not easily convinced to abandon its aggressive policies, but the testimony of the survivors who had been rescued by Lisa carried significant weight with their leadership. The idea that an enemy would risk her life to save Vakari warriors was so foreign to their culture that it forced them to reconsider their assumptions about human nature and intentions. Eventually, the peace talks resulted in the Terran-Vakari Non-Aggression Pact, the first formal treaty between humans and an alien species. The agreement established rules for peaceful contact, trade relations, and mutual assistance in space emergencies. Both sides agreed to avoid military actions against each other while continuing to negotiate more comprehensive agreements. Lisa was awarded the Stellar Cross of Valor, the highest decoration that Earth's government could bestow on a civilian. The ceremony was attended by representatives from dozens of human colonies and was broadcast throughout known space. But Lisa was more proud of the fact that her actions had helped prevent a war that would have cost millions of lives on both sides. The F-22 pilots who had rescued Lisa continued to spread her legend throughout the military. Her name became synonymous with impossible heroism, and the idea that ordinary people could accomplish extraordinary things when they were fighting to protect others. Young pilots would whisper Martinez as a good luck charm before dangerous missions, believing that her spirit would guide them through any crisis. Commander Ben Carter eventually wrote a book about the rescue mission titled When Heroes Rise, which became required reading at military academies throughout human space. The book emphasized that Lisa's greatest achievement was not destroying an enemy warship, but showing mercy to enemy survivors and choosing diplomacy over continued violence. Lisa herself returned to civilian transport, but her new ship was equipped with the latest defensive systems and carried a small military escort on dangerous routes. She continued to ferry passengers and cargo between Earth and the outer colonies, but she also served as an unofficial ambassador whenever human and Vakari ships encountered each other in space. The transport industry established the Martinez Safety Protocol, a set of procedures for dealing with unknown contacts and emergency situations based on Lisa's actions during the alien encounter. The protocol emphasized the importance of protecting passengers while maintaining humanitarian principles, even when facing hostile forces. Years later, when human and Vakari children learned about the history of first contact between their species, they would hear the story of Captain Lisa Martinez, the transport pilot who saved 200 passengers and helped prevent an interstellar war. Her name became a symbol of the courage and compassion that made peaceful coexistence possible between two very different civilizations. The F-22 pilots never stopped whispering her name in awe, and gradually that reverence spread to every branch of human military service. Lisa Martinez had become more than a hero. She had become a legend that inspired people to believe that individual actions could change the course of history, and that showing mercy to enemies was sometimes the greatest victory of all. In the end, Lisa's story proved that humanity's greatest strength was not superior technology or military power, but the willingness to risk everything to protect others and the wisdom to choose peace over war when given the chance. Her legacy lived on in the treaty that bore her name, and in the countless lives that were saved by her example of courage, sacrifice, and hope.